Hi, Jeff Andre here, Business Development Manager at Arkiva. I'm along with Sujit Singh, the COO of Arkiva. Hey, Sujit, how you doing today?
Good, Jeff. Good to be with you.
Fantastic, fantastic. You want to talk a little bit about what Arkiva's doing these days, Sujit?
Sure. For uh, those folks who don't know us, we are a company that makes software in the space of supply chain planning, and that includes things like demand, supply, inventory planning, sales and operations planning, integrated business planning or IBP.
hmm
And we are doing what we have always done, helping our customers be successful with their supply chains by better planning their supply chains and making good decisions, not necessarily great ones once in a while, but good decisions in a consistent, data-driven
Understood.
fashion.
Yeah. Well, listen, I know there's lots to talk about today, but we're here to talk about the importance of supply chain collaboration, which I know that you are a leading expert on. So thanks for joining me. And I really just wanted to jump right into it like we always do, Sujit. So I have some questions lined up for you, and I'm going to fire away if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Excellent. So, how do you define collaborative supply chain planning?
Well, I mean, it's when we are doing supply chain planning, we are data driven. We have a lot of different inputs. We have a lot of different moving parts. And there's a lot of systems as well. And so everyone tries to use a system to make very data driven decisions. But to the extent that we are talking about planning, to the extent that we are talking about future, which is fundamentally unknown and uncertain and can throw surprises. And so every little edge helps. And so the idea of collaboration is to get as many voices into the system. One voice can be, although it'll be probably not be called collaborative, but one voice certainly can be of a system. But then the salespeople who are talking to the customers, the product marketing people who have a pulse of the market, customers themselves, all these different inputs can be brought together. And then based on that, maybe a better decision can emerge. And so when we collaborate with all these different parties, that in very simple terms becomes a collaborative supply chain planning process.
So, what are the primary objectives one should be aiming to achieve through this collaborative supply chain planning?
I think the purpose of collaborative planning is no different than purpose of planning itself. We want to prepare so that we are putting ourselves in a position to deal with whatever surprises come our way. So in that sense, if a collaborative process highlights that a particular supply lane is going to become very expensive for some reason, well then we can already go ahead and plan our work so that we can deal with it and maybe have a way around that particular point because that's going to be more expensive. Or if someone knows that a customer is going to have a shutdown and that as a result we are going to not have that demand that we thought we would, well, now we have a way of dealing with it. So all these tidbits of information, to the extent we can use that to be better prepared for the future, which is essential uh, objective of any planning. Collaborative planning has exactly the same feature. The idea is now that we are incorporating multiple parties, collaborating with them, challenging each other's assumptions potentially, and coming with a net a better solution which can help our business move forward.
Great. Now, you mentioned process a lot in there. Can you describe the process of collaborative demand planning?
Sure. Yeah, we do this a lot actually. So the demand planning, the idea is for the most part, if you have enough historical data, you will generate some kind of forecast using a system, like certainly in the case of Arkiva's demand planner. So now you have the statistical forecast. At this time, you want to see if there is any input that can come from the people who have the pulse of the business, who if they can provide any input that can update the quality of this forecast, make it more accurate going forward, because the latest and the greatest information is probably not available to the system. If some big event is going on, if some customer is taking a shutdown, if some customer is acquiring some other customer, if government has brought out a law which changes the demand picture. So these are probably available to the humans, but not available to the software. And so in that sense now, the process is simply to establish the baseline computer generated forecast and then give it to the people who we are doing the collaboration with so that they can provide overrides, which is basically updates or changes to the baseline number. So if my forecast is 2000 and I know that this customer is going to have a shutdown, then I can make it, maybe 500 because I know that 3 quarters of the month they are going to take a preventative shutdown, which is if they were doing it every month at exactly the same time, then it would be incorporated in the statistics. But if that's not the case, if it's a surprise element, then the collaboration, the process of getting the collaborative input will capture that into the demand planning process. So start with baseline, give it to the people who are providing the collaborative input, collect that input, reconcile the different inputs, and then finalize into a final forecast number. That would be the front end of the process. And the back end, of course, is to see who added value, who made it better, and who made it worse, so that one can then begin to put some weight on different inputs. If a particular person is always providing good input, maybe we need to put more weight on what they are saying compared to someone else who is providing uh, less accurate input. And by the way, this doesn't need to be all internal. It can also go out to external parties like the customers themselves. So collaboration can be, as wide as you would like it to be. But that hopefully describes the process for you.
I think it does. That was a good overview. Thanks. Now I know there's different methodologies and tools available. What are they using these days to facilitate the collaborative forecasting, Sujit?
My goodness, I mean, we have the champion, and that is Microsoft Excel, right?
Of
Everyone
course,
loves it.
right?
So,
Yes.
I mean, the very informal version is a word of mouth, a phone call, email, a text. I mean, those things are never going away. But a slightly more formal version, the winner by a broad margin would be Microsoft Excel, where the system will generate an Excel sheet. It'll come to the person doing the forecasting, the collaboration, and I would change some input and feed it back into the system from that Excel file, whether it's copy paste or through some program, depends on how sophisticated your Excel file is. Then in systems like Arkiva, we have, for example, taken that idea that people love Excel, there's no training involved, and then put a little plugin. And that means that that Excel file has a little capability of downloading the data on demand from the server. And then people can make changes. And when they're ready, they can click another button to make a upload into the server. So it's like an Excel sheet, but it's connected to the database in some form. Now, this has a nice feature of being able to work with it offline. So I can, download when I'm on the network. Then if I'm on a plane traveling from A to B, I can still work on the plane on that Excel sheet. And then when I land, connect to the internet and feed it back up. So that's something that is quite popular with our customers.
Right.
And then, of course, you have, you can have a web page based collaboration. Certainly in Arkiva, there are screens which are built for collaboration where you can load your data, update it, and then push it back. So tools wise, those that would describe the landscape, if you will.
I can appreciate that. I'm sure everybody's used Excel, so we understand that. So, when you're bringing in all these people, for the collaboration pieces, I'm sure you run into discrepancies and some conflicts along the way. So, how do you handle those discrepancies and conflicts among your supply chain partners?
hmm That's a great question. I mean, wherever humans are involved, there is there's the potential of a little disagreement, a conflict, if you will. There's certainly the potential that the loudest voice will carry the day. So if I say very forcefully that the forecast ought to be 2000, and if I just drown out every other voice, then 2000 it is, whether it's right or wrong is secondary. We want to avoid this type of behavior or this type of outcome in the collaborative forecasting process. We want to be more data driven,
Mhm.
right? So that means that certainly in the beginning, there might be some of that. There might be some kind of, if nothing else, there might be some simple averaging going on, because if we have 5 inputs, we simply want to average the inputs. But as time goes on, we need to evaluate who's providing the better input, at what lag. Maybe 1 month out, a particular type of user has very nice and very good input. Like salespeople might know exactly what the customer is doing next month, but they may not be very good at predicting what may happen 6 months from now. They might just be guessing. Well, we don't want those guesses. So at that time, maybe 6 months out, maybe it's the statistical version of the forecast, the mathematical, the computer generated version of the forecast that should win. So there is really a data driven mindset. And Mike Gilliland, he published a nice work on this called the forecast value add. And that provides a really nice framework to deal with these disagreements, where we really get focused on the data. We ask the question, which part of the process, which person in this process, which type of person in this process, because typically persons are with roles, who's adding value? And as we go forward in time, we provide more, or we put more weight into the person who is providing the most value. So that's how we recommend to deal with these disagreements, to deal with it in a data centric way, not in an emotional or a personality centric way.
Listen, Sujit, I certainly appreciate your time today. We've gone through pretty many questions here. You covered a lot on the supply chain collaboration that we wanted to get through today. So I certainly appreciate your time. And if anybody wants to learn more, then we have a blog out there, 5 Steps to Global Collaborative Demand Planning Process. It's right there in the QR code. So copy it there, go there and read it, and look for future LinkedIn Lives here with Sujit and myself as we look forward to doing them. So have a great day. Thank you very much, Sujit. I look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Thank you, Jeff.